Hi, welcome to In Conversation With. Today I am in conversation with the original Renaissance writer here in Alberta, Natasha Deen. She's the author of 6 standalone books and 6 series, including True Crime, Retribution, the Guardian series, and Larkin Connor. She's also an author of the Jake Maddox series. Natasha, I think I speak for everyone when I want to ask you, when do you sleep?
Well, I do sleep. I do sleep, but as a writer, there's just times where you have to grind it out, and then you get to those moments where you finally hit that like sweet, delicious spot where the words are coming, and it feels so good. So I like to grind because I live for that feeling. So
Absolutely. In that same frame of thought, I want to know your process. It's one of my, I guess, my pet passions is having a process. It's the one thing I think that allowed me to write when I was a single mom with little kids, right? So what's your process?
Grinding it out, like it's flexible within a system. So I get my idea. I figure out my 3 questions. What happens? How does it get worse? How does it get solved? I play my and then game. Here's my character, and then this happens, and then this, and then this. I write out a synopsis as much as I can think of. And sometimes it's a whole synopsis, and sometimes it's just like the first couple of scenes. But once I have what I think is the first 50 pages, I just get in there and I start writing. And then I figure out as I go along what happens next. And I think David Baldacci said it really well. He said that writers, when we start our books, we're in high school. When we finish our books, we're in university, because we've learned about the character and we know more about the plot and more about the setting. So I try not to fret outlining too much, but I do try to outline. And then if I don't know what happens, I just write in big capital letters, something happens here. And then I just go along and I get to the end. And it's the same thing too, right? Like with naming characters, they change names all the time. So a lot of times my characters are, this character needs a name. And then the other name is, this character also needs a name. And that's what I call them until I figure out who they are and what they call themselves. But yeah, I try to get to the end. Yeah.
I love what you said about the 3 questions. Can you just repeat that in case people missed it? That's just brilliant.
Yeah, so it's actually 5 questions, but the big 3 questions are, what happens to your character? How does it get worse? How do they solve it? So if you have those 3 questions, I feel like you have enough to start your story. 5 questions is, where is your character at the beginning of the story? What happens to change it? How do they try to solve that? How does that get worse? How do they finally solve it? And for people who are outliners, you make your book longer with those 3 questions, those 3 last questions, right? So what happens to your character? How do they try to solve it? How does it get worse? How do they try to solve that? How does that get worse? How do they try to solve? And you just keep going until you get to like the final solve or the final end. And then, that's it. When your character is like, I got nothing else, you have your story.
I love that. I love that. I always say you somehow get your character up a tree and then start throwing rocks at them. But I love the way you said it much better. Now you write for children, young adults, and adults.
Yes. So ages 5, 6, all the way up into adult.
That's crazy. Did you start writing for kids or for adults?
I actually started in the romance genre because that was the genre that had the door widest open. So for those authors who are trying to break into the industry, look at romance, because they're always hungry for new authors and new voices. And they I think, are the genre that puts out the most amount of books per year. And so I cut my teeth on that, really got to learn plotting and character, and then started going into writing for kids and then writing all kinds of different stories. And I really love it. I think, for authors, when we write in different genres and we write for different audiences, it's a little bit like playing different sports, right? You bring that muscle knowledge, you bring these interesting skills from here into here. And I think it just makes you a richer writer. And it certainly makes it a lot more fun, because I love that challenge of how do you write for the littles, because you only have like so much space. And also, like, how are you writing for kids who are learning English as an additional language? How are you writing for kids who haven't yet found that story that lights them up and learn to love writing and learn to love reading? So how do you tell that story to catch their attention? And then how do you tell the story for the kids who love reading and the adults who love reading? And so, you know, you really are going to have to work hard because they're going to be very picky about what they like and how they choose their writers, right? So
The Larkin Connor series is for kids who are struggling readers. Is that right?
It's for kids. Yes, I think it's part of the Orca Echoes line, which is for kids who are learning how to read. So they're 6 to 9, so they're just starting to learn how to read. And I love the series because Lark is dyslexic, so she mixes up words. She's not a great speller, so when you're in the book, you can see her trying to like spell a word, and she crosses it out, she tries again. And I also really love it for the littles as well as kids who are learning English as another language because it teaches idioms. So in the first book, you know, she has ants in her pants, and she explains what that's all about. And then later on in the book, she talks about upping the ante, and she needs to solve the mystery, because if that's what's up in the ante, then what does it mean if you up the uncle? And at the end of the book, you know, you have the vocabulary and you have the idioms explained for kids. So it's so much fun. It's so much fun to write for littles. It's so much fun to write for anyone, really.
It
right?
is.
You just get so excited when someone's like reading your book. And you're like, oh, thank you.
It's the very best job.
Yeah, best friends now.
So your newest book is, I love the title of this. It's In the Key of Kirigani.
Yes, In the Key of Niragani. In the Key of Niragani, yes.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a great title. It's about a young woman who wants to be a musician, right?
Yes,
Can
yes.
you tell us a little bit about it?
So the book is all about Nira, who's an immigrant kid, and she's a brown kid. And it's very much inspired by my growing up as a child of an immigrant family, and also the experience of being a brown kid, and specifically a Caribbean kid. And for a lot of kids, I think, who are immigrant kids or whose parents are immigrants, you come to the country and your parents say to you, we have come here so you can get an education and you can be anything you want to be, any kind of lawyer, any kind of doctor, any kind of accountant. And you're like, okay, but I want to be a baseball player. And they're like, any kind of lawyer, any kind of doctor, any kind of accountant, you know, and then they differentiate, right? So, you know, if you don't really want to try that hard, just be a GP. Like, it's just so easy, right? So Nira just really wants to be a musician, which is completely out of her parents' wheelhouse. And so the book is this sort of funny, heartfelt look at this kid who's just like desperate to have her parents see her, to have them let her live her own dreams. And one of my most fun characters to write was the grandmother, who's very much based on my grandma's. And she's feisty and she's saucy and she's mouthy and she does not pull punches and she's incredibly loving. And whenever Nira has a problem, grandma's solution is to just give her a cup of tea, which is very West Indian, As a kid, you grow up and you know how big your problem is by how much milk and sugar your elders will put in the tea. So if you have a big problem, they will give you lots of milk and like 2 teaspoons of sugar. And if in their minds, it is not that big of a problem. It's like barely anything. You should be lucky you have milk in this. So
it was very well received, wasn't it? It's won a bunch of awards. It got the Junior Library Guild selection. Chapters Indigo Most Anticipated Teen Book.
Yes.
So congratulations.
So excited. Thank you.
You've got, and there's a crap ton of 5-star reviews on Amazon and Goodreads, so good on you.
Oh, wow. Thank you. Yes. Yeah, I don't know if you're the same as me. I try not to read my reviews.
I read them now. It's been a while since I've had a book out. You know, I'm a film person now. But yeah, I'll go read them. And, you know, I'll write nasty notes to people and then I'll just delete them.
I only read the reviews that my publisher, my publicist, or my agent will send me, because as a writer, you know, I always go back and I can see how I can make the book better.
Yeah.
So then when people are like, it's one too many voices in my head then, right? Because I'm like, but I did the best I could in the moment, and I learned so much more.
But you know, it's funny because I tell I tell people who are starting to write that you will reach a point where you know what's wrong with your book.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know what's wrong with your writing. You know,
Yeah.
you reach a level of competence and you don't need, you know, Mary from Arkansas to tell you that, you know, it was boring in the middle.
Yes.
You know, stuff it, Mary from Arkansas.
I came across one, because sometimes you can't help it, right? You're online. And it was someone who was like, gave me a really low, I think 1 or 2 star, and said, I don't like pink books.
I had
For all of you writers out there, always take reviews with a grain of salt.
very, very soon. I had there was two reviews back to back, and I don't know if it was Goodreads or Amazon, but the one of them went, and this was about a dry spell. It read like she was writing a movie, and then the one right under it was very cinematic! Exclamation point. You can't win. There's no winning. There's no winning.
No,
So as I was saying, though, I love your titles, and I'm curious to know if you've got some fantastic ones, right? You've got Sneakers, Sandals, and Stilettos, which are, by the way, 3 of my favorite things. You've got In the Key Of, which I just love. In the Reef, what is the Reef one? It sounded very
Danger in the Reef, yeah, scuba diving.
So do you title your own books?
I do. I always have working titles that change. And so with Nira originally started as The Girl Who Played the Moon. And then one of my friends said, oh yeah, there's a great book too called The Girl Who Ate the Moon. I was like, okay, can't have that title. And so I do name my books. And then my experience has been that I try to figure out like, what's the theme, what's something symbolic, what's something that would like interest readers. And then I put a lot of thought into it, and then I send it to my agent. And then my agent comes back and goes, we really need a new title on this book. And we brainstorm and we come up with a new title. And then it goes to the publisher. And then the publisher sometimes comes back and goes, okay. And then other times they come back and they're like, we need a new title. So I've learned not to be too, you know, because Nira went through The Girl Who Played the Moon, The Girl Who Played It to the Stars, Nira in B flat, and then finally In the Key. Like she went through a bunch of different titles before and that was Running Press. Like what a great title they came up with.
It's really fantastic.
Yeah.
As is Sneakers, Sandals, and Stilettos.
That one is mine.
Classic. Classic.
Thank you.
So you have written literally about homelessness, immigrants, life after death, sports, learning disabilities, and sharks. Is there a topic you won't cover?
I don't know that I could ever write a story centered around sexual abuse or one where an animal dies. I don't know that I could go into that.
Both of those things. I'm very happy with that answer. Thank you very much. Natasha, we at the library are going to be blessed with your presence in a workshop coming up May 26th, 2 to 3 p.m. Is that correct?
I believe so. Yep. Tuesday, May 26th, 2 to 3:30 p.m. The complexity of character, making words into flesh.
Nice. So you're going to teach us all how to flesh out our characters and make them likable and unlikable.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know how you feel when you look at the different factors that make up a story, but for me, like character is it. Like character is the engine, right? Because your character's choices drive the plot, they drive the arc, they even drive like description and tone and, you know, like everything. You change your character, you change the entire story. I mean, the difference between Red Riding Hood as a girl lost in the woods who needs a hunter to save her is far different than Red Riding Hood, werewolf hunter extraordinaire, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Very, very different. And a small little twisting character is huge. It's huge.
Nope, I totally agree. We're so excited that we're going to be having that.
Oh, I'm so excited to go too, yeah.
To register for the course, you can email me, susie.moloney@epl.ca. You can follow us on our many and varied social media platforms. Follow me, Susie Moloney, on Twitter. Friend me on Facebook. Follow me on Facebook, Instagram. And we're also at Metro Writers-in-Residence Facebook page on Facebook. Natasha, I will see you Tuesday.
Sounds good. See you guys. I'm excited for it.
Bye.
Bye.